Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Ensuring Success 2024 and this is session number 13 out of 14. We're closing in on the end of the most incredible CPE marathon you ever attend each year. I'm Gail Perry, Editor-in-Chief at CPA Practice Advisor, and before we get started, I would like to briefly thank our sponsors who make this event possible, and they include ADP, Avalara, BotKeeper, Canopy, CPA.com, eFile4Biz, RightWorks, SAFESEND, SureLink, Wolters Kluwer, Xero, and Zoho. And in particular, we would like to thank SAFESEND because they are sponsors of this session. If any of you happen to be just joining us right now for your first session of the whole CPE marathon, I'd like to explain how CPE works. During the session, at the bottom of the screen, we will post 3 times, we'll post a 3-digit code. And we'll remind you that it's time to record that code because you'll hear this sound. All right, when you hear that sound, you'll write down the 3-digit code, and there are 3 3-digit codes in this session, so altogether 9 digits. After the session's over, you can go to the CPE option on our screen. It's going to be up for a year, so there's not a rush. But at that point, a screen will open and you can enter all the codes that you recorded from all the sessions you attended, and you'll be able to download your CPE certificates right there. If you have any questions for our speakers, you can enter them in the Ask a Question box that appears on your screen beneath this video window. If you have tech questions for our tech team, and that might be, I can't hear, I can't see, or I missed my CPE code, or whatever it is, you can reach them at the email address at the top of the screen, which is info@EnsuringSuccess.com. Also, I just want to mention that we're on social media at #DecemberCPE. So if you're out on your favorite social channel and want to talk about how incredibly great this event is, feel free to do so and refer to it as #DecemberCPE. I would like to briefly introduce our speakers today. I'm just going to tell you who they are, and then they get to introduce themselves. So this session is called CPA Staffing Crisis, AI to the Rescue, and our speakers include Adrienne Johnson, Byron Patrick, and Kane Polikoff, and our co-moderator, Alexander DeFelice. So I'll start right here with Adrienne. You can introduce yourself.
Yes, Adrienne Johnson, Chief Product Officer at SAFESEND. Really excited to be sponsoring this session. At SAFESEND, we partner with firms to provide a best-in-class client experience. We do that with our automation platform called SAFESEND One that works across the tax engagement lifecycle.
Hi there, my name's Byron Patrick. I'm a CPA from Maryland, the great state of Maryland. And excited to be back for, I don't know, 4th or 5th time, I think. So this is awesome. I am the CEO of Verify IQ. I am also the co-founder of TB Academy, a generative AI education company that I founded with my good friend Twyla Verhelst.
All right, Kane.
Yeah, Kane Polikoff from Detroit, Michigan. We finally have the lines, a good team for once. It's only been 50 years. I'm with Cohen Resnick. We're a full-service public accounting firm. I lead the client advisory service practice. I've been doing this for about 28 years, and I'm excited to be here for everybody.
And for the 13th time, I am Alexandra DeFelice. I'm forgetting my title, Director of Marketing and Business Development at Payne & Fears Law Firm in Southern California, Chief Bell Ringer du jour, and not your turn yet, and co-moderator with Gail. Looking forward to this session.
All right. This CPA staffing crisis, what's that all about? Anybody have any ideas? I'm looking at you, Byron, because you're like the youngest person here, I think, and you maybe are closer to what's happening in the staffing world.
Well, yeah, we know we've been talking for years about the crunch that is happening in the profession, finding talent, especially talent with experience or knowledge. It's been a challenge. And I think there's been a lot of factors that have brought us to this state that we're in. I think one that gets overlooked a lot is STEM has been very successful. I would argue maybe one of the most successful government-funded programs ever. They've done a really good job. I have 2 daughters who both took a STEM path into college, and that's been very competitive. Frankly, has, I think, taken away a lot of candidates or recruits that potentially could have come into the accounting space. So
Technical-minded people.
absolutely strategic, critical thinkers that could have come. So, I think the competition has changed. There's also been generational expectations that have changed. When I came into the profession, I was very accepting of 15 to 20-year path to partner. Mm-hmm. Today's generation doesn't have quite the patience that the Gen X generation had. So it's changed, and firms have not necessarily moved quick enough to adapt to the new population of recruits that we have.
What are the STEM companies, what are they doing right?
Well, so STEM is a government-funded marketing campaign to recruit kids into science, technology, engineering, and math. Mm-hmm. And so they have tons of programs in the high schools. My youngest daughter was in a biomed program in high school. Yeah. They're doing a lot of things to really, make those plans sexy. It's exciting. These careers that they have a lot of marketing dollars. They do entire programs around it, which is why the AICPA has tried really hard to get accounting slipped into the STEAM. There's a lot of people fighting over the A, right? And
another trend,
yeah. Right, exactly. So, I mean, for what it's worth, they've done a good job, but that has definitely, I think, pulled a lot of people who probably would have taken an accounting path early in their career.
Interesting. What else is contributing to perhaps students not choosing accounting as a career path?
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, it's the perception of the industry and the roles and responsibilities that individuals that go down that path are going to take on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's an unfair perception. So I think if you actually sat in on a modern day accounting firm and saw how they operated, I think a lot of young people determining which path they want to take would find a lot of that work exciting. So I think as an industry, to Byron's point, we need to do a better job of marketing those activities of the modern accounting firm and help young people better understand actually some of the technology advancements that we see that go into how an accounting firm operates.
Yeah, and I think bringing awareness, I think to your point, both your points, that we have now the latest technology. It's becoming more sexy. We're getting more into the advisory, and especially from a CAS perspective, that there are different tracks within a public accounting firm, whether you want to go into assurance or tax or M&A or CAS. There's a lot of different avenues, and I think it's we need to spend more time, with the universities and the curriculum, making students understand and bring that awareness. And I have two daughters that are actually in college too, and I'm happy to say one of my daughter's graduating. She'll be joining a top public accounting firm.
Nice.
Good work.
So it worked in August. So. But I think it's once you have those conversations with the kids and you make them aware of what's happening, it's almost like a grassroots. Then I think we'll get more and more folks that are going to want to even become part of that, even folks that are not even going down the accounting track. So we talked about earlier where mathematicians or you're in business and you need to have the soft skills, you need to be able to think on your feet. If those are the type of individuals and be analytical that we're looking for to provide a great service to our clients going forward.
How do you get in front of them, Keen? I think you said you have an internship program and you already just advertised it and you got a whole bunch of candidates. How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, so I do, my university I went to, I went and I spoke with some of the students and bringing awareness. And I think our firm, we have 30 offices around the country, and we're trying to build relationships with the local, whether it's junior colleges or four-year schools, and bring that awareness to that. And
did you speak at in an accounting class, in a business class?
Yeah.
How did you get in there?
So I spoke to actually students who are going to get into the MBA program, and then also some that are going to be focusing on their undergrad in business and accounting. And bringing awareness, and also through grassroots. So I talked to my daughter and say, hey, there's an internship program coming in. Reach out through LinkedIn, send out through all of the TikTok and everything else, and then before you know it, you have hundreds of people that are applying for these jobs. So I think we need to do a better job being proactive about that, and then also working with AICPA and others to get ingrained and build that curriculum so that we can set the kids up for success as well.
Well, Well, it sounds like also it might be a little misleading to say that there are fewer people coming into the accounting profession. There may be fewer accounting students, but isn't some of the hiring going on now for tech people or people who came up through a different path that didn't get a degree in accounting, but the accounting firms still want them for a variety of reasons?
Yeah, we've had luck with really bringing in hundreds of people at a time, sometimes for starting in different parts. So we've seen that progress, and some of them have a technology background or engineering background. We have individuals that are going to help implementing general ledger systems or looking at AI, and we'll talk a little bit about that and how that from the data mark perspective or data strategy. So those are things that you're able to take individuals from different levels of a degree within college and to bring them into our programs. And we want them to be able to think. We want them to be able to understand and listen and drive. So that we're able to really start picking folks not just within the accounting track, but through others as well.
Okay. I mentioned earlier that our sponsor for this session is SAFESEND. We're going to take a quick break to have a word from our sponsor. When we come back, we will give you the first CPE code for this session.
Really impressed with Gather. I tested it probably on 10, 15 clients. I love that I can send them a document request list and I don't have to send an organizer because a lot of people don't fill them out. It's just a waste of time. As I upload the documents, how it just checks everything off. I like that you could do the little view to see what it looked like. It just makes the process so much easier. We use TaxCaddy right now, and it's really difficult to discern, do you have enough to begin? You can't really look at the individual things. You have this list over here and what they upload, and you can't really compare it easily. For our team to be able to go in and look immediately and say, here's what we asked, this is what they've given, we can start our work. So it's going to move our work forward. It's going to increase our efficiency quite a bit. With Gather, you could very easily see, this is what we're asking you for, here's what you've given. It's a game changer, literally.
We are back. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see the first CPE code for this session. Be sure to write that down if you plan on collecting CPE credit for this session. Okay, during the break, we were going over some other reasons still why it seems like young people, students, are not coming into the profession. What are some of the other concerns?
Yeah, I think a big one that we continue to hear is work-life balance, especially during busy season. So once you get into February, March, April, you could see an increase in hours. I think the biggest component to alleviate this concern is with a tech stack. So being able to automate and use tools to make the day-to-day job less overwhelming, and using that to supplement additional hours. So being able to remove manual tasks that might take you late into the evening with automation and other types of technologies, I think is going to be extremely important.
Yeah, and when we, I was waiting to show the results from our survey until the CPE code was taken away, so we didn't block it. But when we asked them what the key reasons were, 43.4% said that they thought that it was work-life balance. And then the next one, which I think we talked about perception of the industry, we talked about other industries doing a better job, and the next one after that was salary, which I think you guys are going to touch upon later. But before we do get to salary, I have a follow-up question on the work-life balance. So you're saying that the task on a daily basis, but then you quickly jumped over the elephant in the room of oh, they maybe have to work some extra hours during tax season. So how do you get away from that?
Well, I think I would say, part of this is a marketing challenge. Like tax is one piece of the profession. And we just jump into this idea of tax season and the extended hours, which not all accountants do that. And so, I think as a profession, we need to change the narrative. Yes, there is seasonality in different roles within the profession, whether it's audit or tax or, some other seasonality aspect of the profession. But outside of those times, there's great flexibility and there's not enough marketing and conversations around that. I was just sitting here catching up with some friends that are in the profession, and they were talking about how great their lives are with their ability to spend time with their kids and do these things. So it's really a marketing thing where we have just not done ourselves justice complaining about long tax season hours constantly, when that's just not the reality for the large majority of the profession.
Yeah, within my practice, we work typically 40 hours a week. From a client advisory service standpoint, you do have month end, which you have to pick up. You do have quarter end, year end, but we try to balance in our capacity globally to even take advantages of holidays, and we have operations in Chennai as well as in the Philippines, so that the team can take time off here in the U.S. We actually take the week of July 4th completely off, as well as Thanksgiving. So here in the U.S., we have 2 weeks that we shut down our offices, and we leverage that by having a global operation to come in and take that in. So there is that, as well as a hybrid. We talk about hybrid or working in the office. We do try to allow people to work from home and also to be working in the office, to have some flexibility to be able to support their kids, or to maybe they need to work earlier in the morning and then have to leave at 3 or 4 o'clock to pick up their kids. So we're trying to be more flexible to allow them, as long as they do their job and the expectations are set, but to give that flexibility I think is important too.
Yeah. I think it's another example of an unfair perception, because I don't talk to a lot of professionals that go through a 12-month calendar year and they never see any spikes in workload. So I think no matter which path you go down, you're going to see a spike in workload. We were talking a little earlier about how a lot of in the stats you're seeing folks funnel into technology as well as finance. But when I look at finance, I still see like there's going to be times where you're working on a deal or trying to win a new client where you're working long hours, you're working on Saturday morning. So I think it goes back to the perception problem again.
Yeah, which is kind of self-perpetuated, right? And so there's that. And I don't know this to be fact, but the number of accountants in some aspect of the profession, non-traditional or traditional, that travel significantly, that don't even work from home on a regular basis, is pretty amazing.
Is that more on the audit side, or?
Oh no, I see him. CAS, I mean, I know it's a lot of CAS professionals that travel. I used to support technology and accounting firms. I had an accounting firm where one of their tax preparers traveled the entire world during tax season. Talk about, work-life balance. So the technology has enabled a lot of stuff. And again, we just need to stop telling this story that, maybe the big four are dominating that story and just working everybody to death, and that's why it feels that way.
And I think going back to your point on automation and efficiency, 20 years ago we had a huge team of data entry. I mean, you just sit there and do data entry all day long. That's almost non-existent anymore. We're leveraging the technology, we're driving workflows, we're executing better, which we're becoming more efficient, and that's allowing us to hopefully reduce the amount of hours that everybody needs to 100%. Do. So I think that we need to articulate that to the, across, not just to us here, but to the folks that should hear that. And I think that there is the great opportunity within our accounting profession to really move up quickly and to have a really good living. And it pays dividends there.
We've also had several people make comments in the Ask a Question box about the fact that the 150-hour rule is a deterrent, or at least is seen as a deterrent. And I personally think the extra 30 hours isn't asking too much. If you do it so that you get a master's degree, which is a nice thing to have, or if you were expected to specialize like in tax or tech or something, and then you could go right into that field when you go into accounting. But if it's just an extra 30 hours to do whatever you want, that seems kind of weird.
If you look at a lot of professions, my oldest daughter is a civil engineer. That was a 5-year program to become a civil engineer. Doctors, lawyers. I mean, there are so many professions where you have to take extra schooling. I think that's like the easy excuse.
Except you don't have to take extra accounting schooling, and that's what doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. And there's, that's because legislatures and it was laws that had to be passed, and they had to give up on that, which I think was a big mistake. But I think the 150-hour rule is a distraction from all of the real core issues.
Red herring.
If we want to bring in additional people into the profession, but let's also keep in mind, it's not all just CPAs. I mean, there's a lot of accountants in this world who are not CPAs. You mentioned second career accountants. There's a huge population of people coming in as second or third career.
And even people working part-time. I mean, we have a lot of folks within our organization that are working 30 hours a week, too, from a lifestyle perspective.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we've laid the groundwork for there are some issues with staffing. So where does AI come in as perhaps a solution to this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I mentioned I teach it, so I'm a big believer that it's going to create a lot of efficiencies for accountants, without a doubt. And one of the things that I even mentioned in that like career trajectory when I came into the profession is you did the data entry and the grunt work and all of those, let's call them mundane tasks that, are being eliminated with the use of technology, artificial intelligence for sure. And the artificial intelligence is getting to the point where it is creating real exciting aspects of what can be done in the profession. So I think the artificial intelligence will create efficiencies, which will give us capacity and ease some of the tension from a staffing perspective, but as well as just make it sexy to be an accountant and use artificial intelligence to do some really cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's almost going to become like a first pass for us. So when you look at the agents and you get into AI and how they're actually going to be able to create and think and recommend journal entries for certain things, that would be the first pass, and the second pass would be the senior accountant or reviewing that work. So you think of all that capacity that you're going to be able to take on. And we talked earlier about advisory and how we want to do all the blocking and tackling. If that could all be done with AI and being properly reviewed, then our team can spend, it's more sexy to spend time with CFOs and CEOs and actually talking about their business and looking forward instead of looking historically, as we talked about earlier today. And I think that's where AI is, as we're seeing it being moved into AP automation and to reconciliation, to controls, all that it's going to involve and it's going to really improve the expectation of driving great service to our clients.
Without a doubt. And even set aside the operational efficiencies, it's going to create significant efficiencies in training. The ability to use AI to train advisory, to have conversations with clients that are mock conversations in an advisory manner. There are going to be so many things that are actually going to accelerate your ability to be able to sit in front of a real live person.
Well, even email communication.
100%.
You talk about that too.
Yeah.
Can you train non-CPAs to do basic tax return?
See, and that's actually the really legitimate question, because it was either MIT or Harvard Business Review, one of those smart schools that do studies, and they did a study where they gave AI to different levels of skill. And what they found is the top high performers, they got about a 10% kick in improvement in their productivity. The low performers, however, got 50 and 60% jump in productivity.
When you said give AI for their skill, you mean AI training for their skill?
I'm sorry, they gave them a task and they were able to use AI to perform that task.
Okay.
Absolutely. So a lot of the lower performers, or maybe even like at this time non-performers, you'll be able to upskill these folks significantly by equalizing them through the use of artificial intelligence.
And what about, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so Alexander, you were asking about the busy season. So at SAFESEND, we work with about 3,000 firms. And on our advisory boards, we have about 50 firms that I talk to on a monthly basis. And the biggest pain point that we continue to hear, again, this is going to be more on the tax side, is the front-end gathering process. So as you're trying to get documents and information ahead of busy season so then you can prepare that return.
And following up with them, where is it?
Exactly. That is an extremely painful, annoying manual process today. A significant portion of that could be automated with AI. So if you think about what AI is good at, it's data classification and data extraction. So at SAFESEND, we pull information out of the previous year organizers to create document request lists, and then those are sent out, and then the automated reminders to say, hey, you haven't sent out the 1099 yet, or your W-2 is missing. Removing all of that manual follow-up and reminders makes busy season a lot less overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like a proactive workflow. which is driving alerts and helping to drive that execution for us. I mean, just like for us, monthly financial statements, we need to get all the statements, all the information we need on a monthly basis to complete that. So having a workflow or having AI to help drive that and reaching out to our clients makes it much easier for us.
Same goes for audit too.
Yeah.
So there's a very similar workflow where you need documents. There's a specific document request list that you need generated. You need that information. In order to do your job effectively, you need that information to be sent over. Being able to use AI to go fetch that information alleviates a lot of that pain.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break for another quick word from our sponsor, SAFESEND, and then we'll be back with some more information about how AI can fix this crisis.
Hi, everybody. I am coming to you live from Scranton, Pennsylvania. Yes, it's true. But wanted to take a minute to talk about SAFESEND 1. SAFESEND 1 makes taxes easy for clients and for accountants, just like me. And it doesn't even have to make up a new number, like Clevin, to do it. It uses AI to gather all the client's documents and stuff together, which is awesome because then accountants, like me, don't have to do much of anything. They can fill out tax organizers on the computer instead of having to use the office's ancient copier, scan in a bunch of pages. SAFESEND 1 assembles and delivers tax returns in 3 to 5 minutes instead of 11 hours. Some might call it my famous chili of tax software. 98% customer satisfaction and 65 NPS score. SAFESEND 1 has delivered over 6 million tax returns, and 95% of its e-file forms are completed within 15 days, which is about 2 weeks. And that is awesome.
Welcome back. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see the second CPE code for this session. So be sure to record that code also, in addition to the one you just got a little while ago and the one you're going to get next, in order to claim CPE credit for this session. So we had just started talking about things that AI can do to solve the staffing crisis. And when we were taking our break, we were thinking about some things that Byron had said to us recently about using AI in Excel, which is a pretty amazing thing. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I am a CPA, so of course I consider myself. We can. There it is. Proof. So we all like to tout ourselves as spreadsheet ninjas. We go in there and do some advanced stuff, and I consider myself to be fairly advanced when it comes to spreadsheets. But since adding ChatGPT to my tool belt for working in spreadsheets, the game has changed completely. My ability to do things within Excel has probably threefold as far as the things I can do, the macros I can build, the formulas I can build, my ability to understand formulas and simplify them. I've taken formulas that I've put into spreadsheets in the past that were just monster formulas and said, just give it to them, simplify this, and it comes back with some really great stuff. So thinking about applying generative AI to the tools we use every day and finding new and improved ways to get from A to B in a much more efficient process is absolutely going to change the game for everybody doing the work.
Yeah, whenever I talk to firms, I'm always trying to nudge them towards more of the tax-specific implementations of AI. So I know there's like a lot of general purpose we were talking about.
That's a coincidence that you would want to do that.
Well, no, even outside of SAFESEND, just because I think it's so much easier and quicker to onboard that capability into your firm, where if it's just a general purpose tool, it's going to take time to learn it and kind of configure it to your firm's specific needs. So even if it's something on tax research, which SAFESEND doesn't do, there's tax-specific technologies that focus on research that do a great job. Again, that is a capability that is very well suited for AI. So you're taking large amounts of text and being able to summarize it and extract key takeaways. Byron and I were talking a little earlier today. One risk that I see with firms adopting AI is they test it out for 15 minutes or they test it out in early 2023. They don't necessarily see the results that they expect, but they don't have the patience to kind of continue to follow the innovation. So one concern firms had in early 2023 is, I don't see the source of this information.
Right.
Well, since then, there's a lot of capabilities that will provide the underlying links, whether it be from the IRS or another key source, and then that researcher can validate that that is credible information that they're receiving. But if you tried it in 2023 and you declared that it doesn't work, then you didn't see all of those advancements in those capabilities.
Yeah, you nailed it. I watched the AI session yesterday, and Blake made the point about, ChatGPT is connected to the internet. If you say, give me the sources, you will get the links right to the IRS code. And, that's one of the challenges, frankly, going back to even like reasons why we have issues in this profession, is this need for perfection from the tools that we implement, as if we're brain surgeons and we're making decisions on life or death. And frankly, if we were brain surgeons, we'd be terrible at it because we'd never do anything because there's always a chance someone might die. And we don't want to take any risk and we don't want to adopt anything. It's as if we were, in danger of becoming dinosaurs, and we're saying, here's medicine that could prevent you from extinction. It's not going to work 100% of the time, but it might keep you from becoming a dinosaur. Accountants are like, no, I'd rather just take the chance of becoming a dinosaur. Maybe we won't die this time.
Yeah, but I think it comes down to collaboration with the partners. When you look at AI or you look at improving a general ledger system or API automation tool, and we've seen the evolution of a lot of products over the last 10 years where initially they were in a very bad shape, and you look at them 10 years later, it's amazing how they've become. So there's a lot of user groups and things, and I think that's where we talked about change management earlier. We have to be open to take a little bit of a risk and to partner with the providers that are out there to help define the use cases to be able to then to excel. And it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Yep. And as we continue to evaluate the tech stacks, SAFESEND, or you look at GL, API automation, all those things, we want to partner, at least our firm, and we want to partner with them to help them, but help us also to progress. And we can't be afraid of doing that, because I think a lot of folks don't really use the full capability of a technology platform. And I think that's where training comes into ways. But when you get back to your point about AI, we're going to learn. We're going to continue to learn, but we need to put the right resources that know how to drive that for organizations to help us get to where we want to be in the future. Now, today we may be here, but in the future we want to get there. It's going to take effort to do that.
Yeah, one of the points I always make around this topic is you want to clearly define what success looks like and what that finish line looks like. So I think another kind of trap that firms fall into is trying to do too many different projects at the same time and don't necessarily define what that finish line looks like. So then you get distracted and you kind of pivot from project to project. If you clearly say that, bookkeeping is a challenge for us, or on the audit side, we're struggling to collect documentation, and say that is causing a problem for our firm, it is requiring us to do a lot of manual efforts, you should lay out a project plan using whatever AI capability is out there that you want to choose and say, hey, this is what success looks like. Let's try and do that by end of the year 2025.
Yeah, no, I agree. You look 5-10 years ago, how many you go into an office, how much paper do you see? You look at how do I key an AP invoice? You don't see that anymore. So there's been an evolution, and it's funny, you still see some offices we run to have paper, but most of them have now embraced digital transformation and execution like that. And I think you're right, is you have to have a strategy. You can't just, you can play with the tools and everything like that, but you got to define what your strategy is and what you're trying to accomplish, and determine what the use cases that you want to have to go in and put in place to execute that to benefit, like my capacity. For me, it's how do I optimize my capacity so I could do more with less. And so I need to determine how technology will be a part of that to help me get to that point, besides also like a global operations too, to support that effort as well.
So talking about doing more with less, we'll shift to Alexandra's favorite topic, which is billing. During the preparation for this, we talked about that this will cut back on some of your non-billable hours. And so how is AI going to transform the way you bill for your services?
Do you can take that.
Byron looks like he's still
I'm going to let Byron take that one. I'll take it next.
I definitely don't want to get into a theological conversation of the timesheet, but I think obviously if your economic unit is based on time and you're implementing things that are compressing that economic unit, you need to figure out ways to either increase the value of that economic unit or bill for it differently. And there's a lot of firms out there who have figured out different units of measure to bill.
Yeah, and I think we talked about value-based billing. We talked about, you hear about time and materials, flat fees, there's different ways. And if we can provide the right value to our clients, if we become more efficient, we're providing the right value, we make more margin, but they're getting what they need. So everybody wins.
That's right.
So I think that's where we have to determine it's the 1-to-1 ratio. If it takes me 10 hours to do a certain task and now it's taking me 5 hours, that's great for me.
Why should you lose from that, right?
But we should, but I think at the end of the day is then where you kind of relook and you're providing more time on the advisory side and you're benefiting from that. But that's where we want to move towards value-based billing in my mind.
And I think we also want to find ways to explain to the client what they're getting for what they're paying for.
Absolutely.
Because you can say, well, okay, it used to take me 2 days to do the tax research on this project, and now I can ask an AI tool, and it'll tell me the answer, and I'm smart enough or know enough about it to verify that really is the answer, but all of that took me maybe an hour. And I want to give the client that answer that technically he could have probably gotten himself if he had known the question to ask.
Like 5 or 10 years ago, we had asked, well, how many invoices do I have to process a month? Okay, do I have to process 1,000? Do I have to process 5,000?
Right.
But in the future, it's not really going to matter because it's going to go straight through processing. In most cases, the system's going to take care of that.
Yeah.
Where 5-10 years ago, I had to have people that are literally entering the information in the system, so the game was different.
Those people.
And so that's where I think there's going to be a kind of a shift towards providing a solution to a client, but the technology is enabling us, so I don't have to pay for data entry operators anymore. The tool is doing all that for me, as an example. And I'm giving better value because I can take my team and move them more towards the controller CFO level to have those conversations with our clients than having to have 20 people data entering 10,000 invoices, as an example.
So what shouldn't you be using AI for from a staffing perspective or inside an accounting firm? You keep putting Byron on this. First.
I could go if you want me to.
I think you shouldn't use AI for anything that you're not comfortable with. And that's one of the things that I teach to a lot of people. If you are not comfortable putting XYZ information into a system, even if I tell you, like, I've done the security review, I've done the privacy review, and everything is fine, then do not do that if you are not comfortable with it. Like, that's kind of the rules of the road of data security. If it seems like it's dangerous, don't do that thing. So I think that's where it starts. I mean, when it comes to staffing, I think there's opportunities to use it for marketing to the right generation of candidates, potentially even doing screening within the systems. There's a lot of like HR guidance and things that you could do there. It's such silly putty. It's like, what can't you do with it?
But I think that's important, just going back, because you briefly made the comment on like not knowing the question to ask. Mm-hmm. So that is another reason that I advise against some of the general purpose tools until you are prepared and trained and educated on how to communicate with that specific tool. So going back to what you shouldn't use it for, if you're not prepared to communicate well with a general purpose tool, you are going to get incorrect information. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times it's referred to as hallucination, but you need to understand how to use it. And if you don't know how to use a general purpose large language model or a chatbot that sits on top of it, then you are going to get incorrect information and you should not use it for that.
So in addition to doing things like research and things that maybe come to mind on a day-to-day basis, what are some other ways that AI can be used in an accounting firm that are really going to make a difference in terms of how they present themselves to their clients and to potential staff?
Yeah, well, in terms of client interaction, I do think there is an opportunity with both the client support side. So the chatbots around client support are significantly stronger than some of the ones that we saw even as recently as last year. But again, that's another area where somebody tried to use like Verizon's chatbot in 2017 and had a terrible experience. So then they're never going to use chatbots again. The chatbots for something like support are significantly improved to what you used to test out, which was just like an if-then statement inside like one of the big, communication companies.
I like this question because every session I'm like, okay, we're scaring our audience. They have to do 8 million things. But the way that this question was posed is just so great. It's really just asking about resources to learn. But it says, who does the Sorry. Who does the solo practitioner who's already a dinosaur go to help with for implementing this modern newfangled AI?
Oh, there are so many resources. I mean, I'm somewhat biased as an educator in this space, but we are creating a program right now with the Maryland Association of CPAs for CPAs of all types. There are so many free resources between the podcasts that we know from so many people we know are talking about this thing. There's a lot of people, and go to your safe space and try it for recipes. Try it for personal things. Like that is my favorite way to get started. You go into ChatGPT and try it for a recipe. Try it for meal planning. I saw somebody yesterday said they created a killer workout routine using generative AI. So there's a lot of places where you just go create an account and ask a whole bunch of questions. Don't get overwhelmed by these ideas of prompt engineering and all this stuff. It's not prompt engineering, it's communication. You're literally talking to it just like you were talking to somebody who is your assistant. Have that communication with them and play with it, and you'll figure it out.
I do think there is a risk to whiplash as you're going out trying to learn more. To Byron's point, there's a ton of resources out there. Again, I would kind of flip it and say, what is the specific problem within my firm if I'm a solar practitioner? What is the specific problem that I need to solve? Don't just go out and peruse the full landscape of AI and just think of different ways that you could use it. I would say, okay, I am going to try and solve a specific problem. If you are legitimately having a crisis, which is the title of this session, you want a game plan to go solve that crisis. And I think doing too much broad research can kind of give you whiplash because the landscape around AI continues to evolve on a daily basis and the use cases continue to evolve. Again, if you have a specific challenge within your firm, what is a AI solution? So do research around that specific problem to go solve that.
And could this be an opportunity? I think we mentioned in another session, this is a solo practitioner, but let's say it's a small firm, but they have somebody that knows about it. It doesn't mean that the head guy whose name is on the door has to do it, right?
I love that idea. Yeah, so I work with a lot of firms that kind of have a dedicated subject matter expert within that organization that is kind of responsible for both implementing a legitimate plan as well as kind of testing out and seeing what's out there. I think that's a great idea.
And that could be really exciting for someone who, again, is digitally progressive. I'm trying to not say the younger people because it's not just that. I mean, it's not all younger people know how to do this, right? But someone who's excited about doing this, and then you empower them to own this project and to set forth standardized ways of approaching things within the firm, that could help keep them around, and that could actually be sexy within.
That's a totally fun gig. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take one more quick break to hear another brief word from our sponsor, SAFESEND. And when we get back, you will get the third and final CPE code for this session and a special bell ringing moment from Kane. We'll see you after the break.
Hello everybody, my name's Stephen Lyon and I have 90 seconds to explain SAFESEND 1 to you. SAFESEND 1 is a software tool that provides automated recognition, assembly, and delivery to all deliverables across the entire tax process, giving your clients the ability to do organizers, upload documents, you to send tax returns, invoices, vouchers that the clients may owe on, and we wrap this up in an unrivaled client experience. Throughout the entire tax process, they have a similar look and feel, no passwords, no account creation necessary, while still maintaining maintaining security, and we give them automated reminders for things like payments and stuff that they have throughout the year. So let's take a quick look at some of it. Okay, so starting with the gather process, if you want to gather things from your client, you can send an organizer, gather signatures on an engagement letter, or just gather source documents. You can upload that here and send a request. So on this firm side, you get to choose what you want, whether there is an engagement letter, custom questions that you want information on. And on the client side, we're going to go ahead and we're going to see the steps that they have to take. We're going to sign, answer that questionnaire, complete the organizer, and upload documents. On the return side, we're going to recognize that return and break it up into its action items, transmittals, returns, vouchers, e-file forms, etc. And on the client side, we're going to give them a very simple 3-step process where they're going to review, sign, make payments, and they'll see an overview of their tax return. I think that's about 90 seconds. That's all I have for you folks today. Again, there's a lot more in the system. If you want to learn more, please visit us at SAFESEND.com. We'll see you soon.
We are back. And if you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see the third CPE code for this session. Thank you, Kane.
Excellent job.
All right, be sure to write that down if you plan to collect CPE credit for this session. And as a reminder, you'll go to the CPE thing on the menu on the top of our screen, not now, later, and you can enter all the codes you collected to get your certificates. Okay, Byron, you had mentioned that financial summit. We want to hear more about that.
Yeah, so Tom Hood recently held the Future Finance Summit, and they did a survey of CFOs or finance leaders within large organizations. Close to 80% are somewhere between the spectrum of exploring ways to leverage AI in their finance function to have a plan and already implementing this year. So there is plenty of opportunities where people with significant resources are already applying generative AI within their finance and accounting functions. And I think we're going to see...
So they're doing it. Your clients are doing it, so they expect you to do it.
Sure, they're absolutely doing it, and there's, people are figuring this out. There are things that are happening that people are doing it, and people are investing in it, and I realize there's time constraints that we all have in order to get into this stuff, but you don't have to do it big. You can start small.
Simple.
You can find like one little tiny thing that you want to do, and you can do it. And if you go out there there's Automation Town, there's stuff on Twitter, there's places you can go where you can pop in a question and say, hey, I want to do this one little thing. Can somebody help me? You're going to find people who can help you.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of consulting firms out there, even public accounting firms, that we have an AI group. And that's what they do. So if you're a single practitioner, based on the question that was asked earlier, there's a lot of folks that are out there, and there's a lot of people that are willing to just get on the phone call and have a conversation about it too. And I think you're right. Start simple. Just prove it, prove the concept, get comfortable, and then move to step 2. You don't have to deploy everything in one day, but get used to the product, get used to the tool, and learn from there. So.
Oh, this question just came in, and I like it because we haven't actually asked this one yet.
Oh. And it's for Byron, though. Right?
Poor Byron. It's because he's in the middle, so literally everyone is looking at
It's
him.
funnel.
It's the green is what it is.
How can AI assist with clients who submit paper documents for bookkeeping purposes? Is there a scanning tool that clients could use to upload documents? Then AI directs the information into the correct accounting categories.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I mean, there's technology. So OCR, ICR, optical character recognition, and intelligent character recognition. You can actually send it through a scanner. There's technology that will extract either it's machine print or even handwritten. So that's technology that's been out for 20, 30 years. And so it's able to take that information. There's mapping that you could do to map it to within the database of where things resolve. So that is one aspect of to being able to take a whole bunch of paper and send it through the scanner, reads the information, and then you would have somebody review it just to make sure all the information is correct.
I think that's anything with AI at this point, right? We don't trust it at all.
Yeah, well, that
Trust but verify. What's
that?
Well,
yeah, I think it's like the same thing for, I'll say, accounts payable for whether it's a general ledger code or it's extracting information from an invoice. You do have certain thresholds, and there's certain percentages of what the system confidence level is. At 80%, is it 90%, and that's a learning mechanism. So, typically during an implementation, you would want to have a review or an audit that's done after the first pass by OCR, ICR, or AI. And then once you get to that point, the confidence level increases, and then some of those invoices actually go through the process straight through without having anybody review it. The same type of thing. If there's a bunch of paper, you kind of extract that information. You still want to review it, but there's a point in time where the confidence level is so high that you feel comfortable. Now there's critical factors, there's critical fields, and there's non-critical fields too. So you can actually program the system to, when you want to look at a critical field, you have that field be reviewed to make sure it's validated, maybe a non-critical field, maybe not less. So those are some things that you can program into the system to do that.
Yeah, on the SAFESEND side, we're heavily focused on the intake. So ahead of tax prep, you need a certain set of documents. So we use AI in our SAFESEND tools to automatically generate the document request list and then send that out to the client and collaborate with the client. And then as that client is uploading his or her 30, 35, 40 PDFs, we're using AI to do document classification. So we'll go through and identify what is the 1099 that was submitted, what was the W-2, what was the charitable contributions, which K-1s have come through, and start to mark off the document request list using AI.
Yeah, and you have an electronic sorting process. So you think about back in the day, 20 years ago, you had all the stacks. We used to do claims processing. You had 30 different buckets you got to put everything in manually. I mean, we processed like 300,000 invoices a day, and you had all these people in this big facility basically taking the information, putting it in the bins, and send it through the scanner.
Human scanner.
now you can send it through the system, and the system will identify the type of document and extract the information and put it in the right place, which is amazing.
And I would also add, a lot of times people get stuck on their existing workflow or their existing process, and then they want to just apply some sort of technology to ease that. I would take a serious look at what is this information that we are collecting on a monthly basis, and is this the most efficient way to get it? Sure. Are there other systems that could actually pull that information for us, or are there other ways? There are so many tools, and this is where I love like the in-person conferences with the vendor space, because you can walk the halls, and I could list 5 solutions I know of offhand that could probably resolve that person's challenge in a different way, changing that existing workflow that is being used. So, getting outside of your box and looking at these things and finding different tools, because there's some like really cool tools.
Yeah.
And they're not very expensive either. No. Some of them are very inexpensive.
Yeah. Well, I think the bigger challenge for firms is there is a short-term switching cost, and they get kind of fearful of making the switch or any sort of change. So there's a little upfront work that you need to do to make that switch. But the long-term ROI on that is huge.
Okay, I want to switch to one other topic, but before I do, the dinosaur thanks you all very much, he says.
Yay.
I said he, I assumed it's a he. So going back to Kane, instead of picking on Byron, I want to just switch to outsourcing, because we've touched upon this topic in many other sessions, and we keep telling people, do more, do everything, be all you can be and more, and have your life be amazing. What if you don't want to do it? How can you outsource? Who should you outsource to, Kane?
Yeah, I think as we talk about AI, from whether you can offshore, outsource, or nearshore or rightshore, you want to do your research, and you want to work with an organization that has done it for a long time. I've been doing this since early 2000s, and and I think it depends on what you're looking to do. We have a lot of the public accounting firms, even small to large, have operations in India or the Philippines or other parts. And I think you just have to do your homework. You can use a third party. You can create a captive. There's many different ways of doing that. But it's becoming the norm. And I think it's something you're having challenges with your capacity. You should definitely look into that and ask those questions. There's a lot of organizations out there that can support that. And it can be very seamless. We've become an extension of their team. And I've seen a lot of very successful people, but you want to make sure you have the right process and you do it the right way, and you take your time to evaluate that.
Are there low-hanging fruit of things you should and should not outsource from the get-go?
It's the same kind of approach. Is you probably want to start more on the simpler task and looking at maybe on the transactional level. If you're looking CAS, maybe accounts payable or accounts receivable is a place that you want to start as an example. But we do everything from transactional level to controllership, and it just really depends on what the client's looking for.
Okay.
Excellent.
Do we want to send that last little question? Because I think that's kind of fun.
Oh, yeah.
We want to know if you guys who are watching have played around much with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. The question is about what level are you on the dabbler scale?
Yeah.
So we're sending that out because we are interested about whether I never opened it. I tried it a few times. I use it occasionally, or I use it daily. In our last session, the biggest concern, of course, was around security, far and above. What is it not? What's not? I know you already, Byron, said don't do anything you're not comfortable with. But what are you not comfortable with? Are you not ready to put in, even in your own proprietary stuff?
Here's Byron gets the question. Go ahead.
So I'm similar to probably the way Blake answered this similar question in the session. I have a paid subscription. I've gone through the settings. I've locked it down in every way that is possible. I am comfortable putting just about anything into the system that I have because there's so many factors that go into it, but there's not been a single use case where I put my social security number in and Kane went in there and said, what's Byron Patrick's social security number? And it got it. That's not the way these systems work. So, I don't let that be a deterrent for using the systems. There are so many things that you can do that are safe. And if you need to anonymize the data. I mean, Control H, find and replace is really, we're all familiar with that at this point. So, I might be on the edge, but don't let that stop you from using these tools. There's ways to do it safely, and ask somebody to help you to do it safely.
I have to say, I'm actually amazed because while 50% of the audience said they never opened it, 7% said they use it every day, 18.6 occasionally, and 24% tried it a few times. So it looks like they're working in the right direction.
But this is the last 30 minutes, right? They started working on it.
That's right.
They were doing it while they should have been listening for this
Inspiration.
Yeah.
Mission successful.
Thank you all so much. This has been a really great session, really fun, and gave us a lot of food for thought. We are about ready to peel into our last session of the conference. So we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back at the top of the hour, and we will see you there. Don't go away.